How do we imagine the gameplay when we say regular horror? Well, most likely, it will be something frankly frightening, filling us with fear. Horror, playing on our emotions or the feeling of confined space. For a long time, a good horror was considered a game that was filled with jumping screamers and scary sounds. This was enough for people to want to buy the game and recommend it to their friends. Later, gamers began to miss this and such techniques. As a creepy atmosphere, anxiety, psychedelics, something that makes you scared at the subconscious level, and not reflexes or surprises. But today I would like to tell you about an unusual game that moves away from the usual methods of fright and adds one rather unusual one. This game is at least 10 years old, but there is relatively little information about it, which made me feel unfair. The developer of this game admitted that he wanted to create something that would change the idea of games. He wanted to create a game that invades the player's reality through files on the desktop, fake glitches and direct appeals to you as a person behind the monitor. It takes the breakdown of the fourth wall to a new level. And there were even cases when players said that after deleting this game from the computer, their folders with documents were deleted, which then appeared only after a few hours. Whether this is a real case or not, we will never know. But after this, not trying this game would be unforgivable. When you first launch it, you expect a standard horror. Dark corridors, jumping out of streamers, notes at every step. At first it all works like that, nothing foreshadows trouble. You start in an empty room with gray walls, a bed, a nightstand and a door with exit written on it. To open it, you need some kind of heart, and you go to the basement, which is on the opposite side of the room. Pixel textures, low resolution. Minimalist design, but this simplicity is deceptive. The silence, broken only by static noise, immediately creates the feeling that something is wrong. And very soon you will begin to encounter all sorts of oddities. For example, your first encounter with such a glitch will happen when you find a key and open one of the doors in the white corridor with it. Walking forward along it, you will zigzag to the end of the room, in which there is some kind of pulsating heart. Apparently it is needed to open the door at the very beginning. We take it, return. The game throws us a blue screen of death. Of course we are brave guys, we know such. So we just re-enter the game, but the next time we open the game asks us, "Hello, do you know my name? Now try to understand what needs to be entered here." At first I decided to enter Bobby. The game crashed, then I tried to enter no, it crashed again. So I tried a few more times and none of the options I suggested worked. And then, purely by chance, out of the corner of my eye I noticed on my desktop some folder called "I'm Scared," which I did not create. When I went into the folder, some text file was waiting for me. When I opened it, a text appeared in front of me, describing some entity that can be turned into data. It says here that they have their own life. They watch us, studying our behavior, our fears. At the very bottom it says, "This is White Face." Only by entering this name, the game let me go further. That is, without seeing this folder on my desktop, which is already incredibly messed up, I simply would not have been able to pass the next level. Or here's another example. At one point a ghost crawls out of the grave in front of you, which you need to shoot. For this you were given a revolver. But no matter how hard you try, it won't shoot, because you were not given bullets. No matter how much I ran around this location, around the trees, returning back, running around the grave, from which the ghost appeared, nothing helped me. Even the sign that meets you before the fight with this ghost, as if laughing at you, saying that you will have to shoot, but you will not be given bullets, and so what? You think that here it was necessary to do, but it turns out that in the folder with the game at that moment the file revolver in a spawned in which it was necessary to change the variable 0 to, say, 10. Then, having expanded the game, bullets suddenly appeared in your gun and you could finish the job you started. And so that you know, such glitches are only one part of what this game hides. I thought that I wouldn't be able to go further than the files in IMSCARED. But there was a moment when I realized that I was very wrong. At one point, I was returning from another room back to the beginning to use the heart on the door and open it. Having gone up to the room by clicking on the door, the game decided to write that this was the end. It seemed to have crashed. Well, big deal, it's not the first time. But having exited to the desktop, I realized that my mouse was stuck in the center of the monitor and refused to move. It was simply blocked. Having opened Alt+Tab, I realized that the game had opened again and was only able to expand it through a key combination. Having entered it, we see a picture in front of us that we were locked in a cage. There are a bunch of those same white faces around, who are looking at us, but this lasted only 1 second. After which the game closed again, as you understand. It constantly plays with the player through such breaches of the fourth wall. In order to move further along the plot, you will need to edit files, solve them, and even change the time on your computer. At one point, for example, the game will give you a moment where there will be a closed door in front of you, the key to which you will not find. Not in the bushes, not in the corner, not anywhere else. This key simply does not exist. And the only way to open it is to go to the I'm Scared folder. Find the lock file, delete it from the folder only then. The gates in the game will open. This may sound elementary, but believe me, the average player sits here for about 20 minutes before it dawns on him what to do. The game makes you believe that its code goes beyond the root folder. It is able to change files on your computer. Players on the forums also share their stories about the strange things that happened on their computers. Some players said that I'm Scared scared them by using their name or creating files with personal messages. One anonymous user claimed that after entering his name, the game created a file with a phrase that too accurately described his life, which made him delete the game and scan his PC for viruses. Another user claimed that the game initially knew his name from somewhere, although he did not specify it anywhere, and unaware players were afraid to open files created by the game at all, because they thought they were viruses. And in general, there were incidents when the antivirus deleted these files, because it considered them malicious, thereby breaking the passage that know which antiviruses will consider the game a virus. The developer warned at the very beginning when you first entered the game, so the last story could really happen. Now let's talk about those who make I'm Scared a real horror. About the character's white face and HR, and about the atmosphere that puts pressure on you from the first minute. Whiteface is a scorching pixel face with a creepy smile that appears at the most unexpected moments. It will look at you through the windows, watch from the balcony, fly after you making a scary sound. And, of course, scare, very interesting. WJ Face is not just a monster, but as if a living creature that wants your attention. At first it just scares you, but as you progress the creature gradually begins to communicate with you. It will say that it is scared, will ask us not to leave it, to play with it, and so on. Naturally, it does all this in a rather strange manner. Unexpectedly, sometimes quite creepy. They even wrote on the internet that Vi face personifies the fear of loneliness and it just desperately wants communication. But its actions scare the player. Hajor is an even more mysterious figure. It is a flying white girl who will also try to interact with you in every possible way. She will look out from around the corner, lure you to her, look at you through paintings, and naturally, sometimes come a little closer. The creator himself said that Whiteface and Hajor are parts of one whole, a reflection of the fear of loneliness. If Whiteface is an active threat that wants your attention and scares you with chases, then Hajor seems to be motivated by the desire to observe, control, perhaps keep you in the game. These two creatures are the main reasons for fear and scared. They are the ones who are chasing you and communicating with you through notes and files on your desktop. Very often, this game will play on your fear of confined spaces, where you can run around a closed parking lot, while that same white mug is flying after you, or for no reason at all, you can be thrown into a black room face one-on-one, where he will tell you that this is his room and he is scared here. There are quite a few such moments in the game, and this simultaneously plays both in its plus and in its minus. On the one hand, the game makes you paranoid. Who will expect a screamer around every corner and behind every door? But on the other hand, the constant use of the same techniques hardens you, and you are no longer so afraid to go forward, because you already know what can await you, what can be given credit, so it is the sound. To conduct, what, low humming tones, static noise, rustling, and some eternal sounds of breathing or even mockery, will definitely make you constantly turn around and check if there is anyone behind your back. As for the plot, then, unfortunately, this is probably the weakest part of this work. Because calling what is happening in the game a plot is like calling a striptease with a ballet, it seems so. But there is a catch, because here no one will drag you by the hand and explain what is really happening, who all these characters are, what is their motivation, and most importantly, who we are and who we play for. Most of the things in the game are left to interpretation. which is why players are forced to think up the plot themselves. The only thing we understand as we go along is that Whiteface behaves like a virus, but at the same time all he wants is for the player to stay in the game as long as possible. After all, for example, at the very end, when we complete all the achievements, the player will find himself in a black room, in which he will have a choice. Either he takes a flower and brings it to Whiteface, thereby saying that the player wants to stay with him, or he goes through the door and thus leaves him. I, like a true McHuman, decided to choose the option with the flower, because I thought it would be nice enough. Here Whiteface gets touched, says that I am very kind to him and says that he wants us to continue playing with him forever. Here we turn off the game, all data about our playthrough is erased. And the next time we enter it, everything will be as it was initially. So, in theory, we fulfilled his request. As for Hyor, only a small part of the game is devoted to her. During this time, she manages to really annoy us. At the end of her arc, the developer of the favor will allow us to shoot her. I talked about this moment at the beginning, when I mentioned the feature with the revolver. As soon as we fire the last sixth bullet, the game will allow us to exit our body and see that all this time we were playing for Whiteface. How it works is not entirely clear, but after that we will not see her in the game anymore. And in general, this is the entire plot that is told in the game. The rest is presented in the form of text files that will periodically appear in the I'm Scared folder on the desktop. So to summarize, I am ready to say that the plot in this game is like a broken mirror. You only see fragments, but you will never collect the full picture. So, let's summarize. I Am Scared is an interesting experience of interaction between the game and the computer, which will definitely seem interesting to someone. A similar experience will later be repeated in such games as Doki Doki and Oninsha, where the game will also break the fourth wall in every possible way and try to communicate with you and not with the player. The style shows that the author was inspired by such projects as Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and I can say that it has interesting gameplay solutions. But at the same time, having completed IMSCARED 100%, I am ready to say that perhaps this is exactly the type of game that is more interesting to watch on YouTube than to play yourself. Because what I described to you are just some episodes that seemed most interesting to me. The game itself takes much longer to complete, in my opinion, cutting out not some levels, it would not have lost anything at all, because you often have to run around the entire location, collect some keys, open some doors, windows, cabinets, endure all sorts of screamers, run away from annoying ghosts. If you like the format of such an adventure, then you can download and try to complete it completely. Perhaps it will turn your idea of horrors upside down, and its creepy atmosphere and philosophical subtext will make it unique for you. And that's all my content for today, so I'm off to cook sandwiches, make yourself some tea. Bye.